The upcoming super middleweight doubleheader scheduled for Saturday, May 31st, where in the main event it'll feature Caleb Plant taking on Armando Resendiz, and in the co-main, the return of Jamal Charlo against Thomas Lamanna. This is a PBC promotion and it'll be aired on Amazon Prime. When we last saw the fighters mentioned in here, they were all having some pretty interesting outings. And when we start first with Jamal Charlo, who hasn't been in the ring since November of 2023 against Jose Benavidez Jr. in a lackluster unanimous decision victory, Charlo has had an assortment of outside the ring issues that have kept him inactive. Personally, I don't think the young man should be boxing. I think he should be trying to resolve the issues that have haunted him over the past few years. When it comes down to Thomas Lamanna, his opponent, he suffered a devastating knockout. And it's very interesting that ever since that knockout, he has been back and has had a series of victories. The knockout occurred in May of 2021 against Erislandy Lara, a first-round annihilation. And since then, he's been on a string of victories, but only fighting sporadically. In 2021, he fought one more time after the Lara knockout, where he came back and scored a victory. However, ever since then, he has been on a series of wins, but the opposition has been questionable. Now, Lamanna coming in against Charlo, I can understand why this particular matchup is being made, because both men are in their mid-30s, with Lamanna being 33 and Charlo is now 35. Wow, he's been so inactive that the last time I remember him boxing, he was like 30. So it's just interesting to see that a talent like that gone to waste. Both men are 6'1", and Lamanna has a 1-inch reach advantage at 74 inches in reach. He has fought last as far as March of this year, and then prior to that going back to June of 2024. Now, when we talk about that inactivity for Jamal, his fight prior to facing Benavidez in 2023, November of 2023, was a June of 2021 match against Juan Macias Montiel. Charlo has really been off the map a long time. I would consider him a fighter retired, trying to come back out of retirement. To that degree is how I'm looking at it as far as he. But the fact that they put him in with someone like Lamanna, they're trying to give him a chance to look good, because it's obviously with the 5 losses on Lamanna's record, 3 of them have been by stoppages. And when you look at the men who've stopped him, you have to look back to Lara, and then Jorge Cota, and then prior to that, Antoine Douglas. But that goes all the way back to March of 2015. Those stoppages mean something because Charlo can still punch. His left hand was vaunted as a huge weapon, being a jab. Will he still honor that? We have no idea, but we'll see. And if there is any case whatsoever that he is ill prepared for this fight, I would expect Lamanna to be the type of fighter to go in and take the bout away from Charlo. Charlo's pride at 35 could get in the way of all sensibility. He should be favored, but my goodness, you have to look at the circumstances surrounding. Cornflake, as Lamanna is known, is not going to go in there to lay down. I can tell you that right now. So the hitman, Charlo's nickname, is going to have to bring it. All of the talk and all of the posturing and everything has to go out of the window. Now, he and Caleb Plant had an issue over the past few years, and this could be something that's building toward them finally having a showdown. But it really is all contingent upon what Charlo is able to do, because even if he wins but looks poorly, nobody's going to want to risk that with him. So with that being said, we turn the focus now to the main event, which would be Caleb Plant against Jose Armando Resendiz. Now, Resendiz may be a familiar name to you because he is the gentleman who defeated Jarrett Hurd back in March of 2023. He got a stoppage over Hurd as they were battling it out, and Hurd suffered a tremendous cut on his mouth in a fight where Resendiz was really high volume puncher against Hurd. He was in there, and Hurd wasn't prepared for the volume and attack that Resendiz had prepared for. His record is presently 15-2 with 11 KOs. Out of the 2 defeats, he was stopped once, and that was against Elijah Garcia, and that was back in September of 2023. Now, we know that Garcia and he had a good fight. It was a knockdown drag out where Garcia was really ripping into him onto an 8th round stoppage. But Resendiz is resilient, and he's now coming back against Caleb Plant, but not first before facing in February of this year Fernando Paliza. Now, Paliza was stopped in the 5th round of a 6-rounder between the two. I believe that if Resendiz can hold up that volume of punching that he showed and displayed against Jarrett Hurd, it could make a difference in competing with Caleb Plant. He's 26 years of age. He's 5'10" with a 69-inch reach. But the thing about it is, there is something with Caleb Plant that you cannot overlook. Caleb is entering this fight now with his record of 23-2, 14 KOs, and 1 stoppage loss out of the 2. That stoppage came back in November of 2021 against Canelo Alvarez in the 11th round. He was down twice in the 11th round before the stoppage. He had fared fairly decent, but Canelo had caught up to him after that mobility slowed down, and also his engine. Caleb seemingly fades in the second half of fights, and it doesn't necessarily contingent upon how much pressure one applies to him. It's just something that happens. I don't know if he's training to fight hard in the first few rounds and he needs to kind of allow himself to get into the mix of a fight, but he's seemingly, when rounds 8, 9, and 10 come around, there's a tremendous drop off, and Resendiz can exploit that if he keeps that high volume up. Now, Caleb is a little bit taller at 6'1" to 5'10" for Resendiz. He has a 74-inch reach to 69-inch reach for Resendiz. Now, herein lies something that is like a special intangible for Caleb Plant. Being trained by Breadman could make a difference. And if Breadman is still with Caleb, and can remind him of his boxing ability and his ability to establish real estate, meaning that you keep Resendiz at a certain distance. Do not allow him to crowd you, get in close with you and bang in battle, because he's going to up the volume of shots, and that can be debilitating over rounds. We saw back in September of last year when he took on Trevor McCumbee. I call him the Brownie man, because he was a quick picker-upper as he picked Caleb up and threw him to the canvas and everything in the early rounds of that fight. But Breadman got him to settle down and take the fight to McCumbee, who was accustomed to being overwhelming to other fighters. But when the pressure was put back on him, he didn't receive it very well. The fight in March of 2023 against David Benavidez proved to be a tough unanimous decision loss for Caleb, but it showed that he knew how to survive in those later rounds, not allowing Benavidez to get an opportunity to get a late round stoppage. In this fight, the 32-year-old Plant is going to have to fight through those late rounds, and I do believe he can be successful doing so. But again, that inactivity, man. The fight with the Brownie guy, that was like, what, when you think about it, September of 2024, and then prior to that it was March of 2023 against Benavidez, and then October of 2022 against Darrell. So Caleb has been basically fighting once a year, and that's not good either. So this is a card, like I said, it has intriguing matchups and fighters who can bring questions to the table unanswered. And the opponents may not have the answers themselves. So this may be an interesting card just to tune in to see how the fighters who are favored fare and how the fighters who are the underdog decide to step up and not play the role of underdog. But what do you think? This is Stormy B-Man. Shout out to the mighty LDBC and Liberated Perspective, a third eye view of the world. For more content such as this, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Let me know your thoughts about this doubleheader, PBC on Amazon Prime. How do you think it's going to shake out? Leave comments and let's discuss further. Peace to everyone out there, and everyone please remain safe.